So hi there guys, my name is Izelle Hoffman. I'm a lifestyle chef and welcome to our last Viavi Thursdays. Now we decided we're going to end off this season with really a sweet decadent recipe, and this is ultimately one of my favorite recipes out there because first of all, why? Today we're making my sticky chocolate pudding recipe, and if you look at my cookbook Mindful Eating, if the light is playing with us, there you can actually see how phenomenal this recipe looks in the book, and people at home make notes because it is so easy. For those of you that is going to try it with the Viavi twist, because that really is what the cooking is all about today, please make notes, but also have a look on the Viavi social pages, because first of all, the recipe is on their Instagram page as well as their Facebook page, and we will of course reshare this recipe on my pages afterwards as well. So what are we going to do and where do we start? Well, first things first, let's run through all the ingredients so you at home can step by step understand how easy and user-friendly this recipe really is. Now behind me I've got my oven set on a thermofan on 180 degrees Celsius. It's quite important that you're going to preheat your oven. And then over to our base. Now for those of you that know my cooking, you know that I never make use really of flour. What I make use of is always chickpeas. Now here in my mixing bowl, you can see this is 2 cans of chickpeas that I have pre-pulp washed. I've also drained them, and all that is left is this phenomenal sort of mixture that you can create magic with. Then over to our magic ingredients. Now for those of you, if you have not tried the phenomenal Viavi avocados yet, you're almost too late, but the season is not completely over, because if you look at Woolworths, maybe you can see there with a sticker as well. Let's just show it closer to the screen. That is, of course, our exclusive to Woolworths sticker. Yeah, these creamy babies are really going to add that decadent, just phenomenally creaminess to this recipe that you have never thought of. Okay, so we're going to mash this one. We're going to add it to this mix. And for that reason, you're also going to have to make use of 1 extra egg to make sure that we get the most from this recipe. So we're going to get to this one in just a second. Then over to our other ingredients, we are going to make use of a ½ cup of raw honey. Now I can actually start here and so I add that to our mix while we add it. Now this time of the year, honey is of course a little bit on the sticky side of life, so you might slightly struggle to get it out of your container. And I always say to people, how do you know you're actually making use of a good quality honey? Well, it is as simple as make sure you make use of a good quality raw honey and you know your source. If you know where the honey comes from, it's so much easier to actually make that decision for yourself. Is this a good quality product or has it been tampered with? Because otherwise, at the end of the day, you are buying expensive syrup or sugar, but you're not necessarily buying a good quality honey. So be sure to be on the lookout. Read labels, people. That's always what I tell people because that is so important. Okay, so now we've got our honey. Now over to our almond butter. Now before we get to the almond butter, people often ask me, can I make use of peanut butter? Now, to be quite frank and fair, yes you can, but peanuts is not an alkalizer like your almonds. So yes, would you get the same end result? Yes, you will. Would it have all the same health benefits? Unfortunately not. Now over to our almond butter. I always like to make use of the little bit darker one, as you can see there in this small container. And this is then of course 100 grams that we're going to be adding to the mix. So for those of you, I hope you are making notes, because so far we have chickpeas, we have raw honey, and we have almond butter, and already it's starting to look delicious. There you go. Now over to our next ingredient. Now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of caramel essence and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Usually I do make it on the 50-50. So what we're going to then add there is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then because we are adding, of course, the avocado, you can go up to even 2 teaspoons of caramel essence. So often people say to me, do you need to add both of them? I would advise you to. If you maybe only have the one or the other one at home, you are welcome to also make use of it in that way, of course. So for this reason, I'm going to add 2 caramel essence to this mix. There we go. And then over to our bicarb of soda. Now, bicarb of soda has got the same function as your baking powder in a recipe. However, the difference between the two is bicarb of soda is a pure product where your baking powder has got your cornstarch in. And ideally, we don't want to add the cornstarch because bicarb of soda is an alkalizer. So again, if you're sitting with an excess acidity, this is the kind of ingredient that you would want to add to your baked dish at the end of the day because it makes it more and more a guilt-free indulgence, of course. So for that reason, we're going to add 1 teaspoon to the mix. And then just make sure, because we keep using sort of the same teaspoon, it always just helps with the dishes afterwards. And then over to our 1 teaspoon of our Oryx salt. Now, people make sure that you buy good quality salt. I absolutely love Oryx salt. For those of you that don't know, it's sort of this one that you can get on the shelf. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of that to the mix. And I always just make sure that my teaspoon is clean before I move on to the next product. That is quite important to make sure that we get not contamination of anything inside the little jars, but that we can sort of, like I said, stay on the lighter side of life when it comes to the dishes, of course. Now all that we need to do is we're going to start mixing all of this together. And I actually do want to show you in the mixing bowl currently what it looks like. It almost looks like a caramel fudge. And I need to warn you, don't start tasting the batter, because once you start, unfortunately, you cannot stop, because this already is such a phenomenal combination, because remember, there's no egg in there just yet. So it is quite yummy, so try and keep the pinky intact. Okay, so just going to be mixing all of that together. Now, according to the recipe in my book, this needs only 2 eggs, but because we are going to be adding a Viavi avocado, we're going to mash it just now and add it to this. The only other thing you need to do is add 1 extra egg. So in total, this recipe will then make use of 3 eggs. Okay, there we go. Look at that. Now, like I said, with regards to the color, you can see already it's a beautiful caramelly color. Now, how do we sort of make sure that this is going to turn into a chocolate sensation? People, the answer is always cacao, not cocoa. It needs to be the CACAO one, because that is the raw, unfiltered, unrefined, and it's the one with all the good antioxidants, and it's so loaded with calcium. So for someone like me that's not a fan of dairy, this is always my best ingredient in order to get my calcium in for the day. So the more and more reason to be eating chocolate, I always say. So that is 1 heaped tablespoon of cacao. Now, if you're a fan of a milk chocolate sort of taste, you can do 1 normal heaped tablespoon of cacao for this mix. If you're a fan like myself of dark, intense, sort of a very dark, almost bitter kind of chocolate, I would advise you to up it up a little bit, because it really just gives that wow factor to this. Remember, we did add 5 tablespoons of raw honey, and you might think it is a lot, but if you work out this, this dessert is enough for 6 to 8 people. 6 tablespoons of raw honey is not really that much at the end of the day. So on we go, and we just start off slowly but surely mix this into everything else. A proper chocolatey mix is on its way. And then last but not least, 50 grams of almond flour. Now, when it comes to almond flour, often people also ask me, can I make use of a coconut flour, or maybe, you get your tapioca flours and things like that. I would not advise you to do that. Reason being, almonds is an alkalizer. We are chasing that perfect pH in the body, and for that reason, when you add almonds to your diet, it really just neutralizes that excess acidity that can be building up at the end of the day. So there we go, only 50 grams. And slowly but surely, we are stirring everything in. Is everyone at home making notes so far? How are we doing with maybe if you are doing the cook along with me today? That is also quite exciting. So please let me know how things are going your side. Okay. So like you can see, we've got a beautiful chocolatey mix. Now, just on a side note here, maybe you didn't want to make a sticky chocolate pudding today. Maybe you were more a fan of muffins or something like that. Remember, muffins then would not need the sauce. So this batter, after I've added our Viavi avocado, of course, is that a perfect sort of mix to make muffins with. Alternatively, you can also make a little bit of a chocolate loaf if you wanted to do like a beautiful sort of an avo chocolate mousse effect on top. That's, of course, another, just an idea that I've got out there for you to make use of as well. And yes, when it comes to the sauce or the icing, for lack of a better word, I always make that little bit extra. Reason being, it's absolutely phenomenal on anything from a rice cake or anything you would like to add. What is out there better known as Nutella? This is just a healthier version of that, of course, and I promise you it's not going to disappoint. It can even be a phenomenal little gift or just an extra little bit of extra love or something that you take with maybe when you go and visit your mom, your sister, or maybe even your best friend. Okay. Now, enough talking here just for a second with regards to all the gifts and things like that, because why? This mix is now absolutely perfect, except there's one ingredient missing, and that is, of course, our Viavi avocado. Now, when it comes to my cooking, I always say I cook with love, and for that reason, I've decided we are going to bake this in a phenomenal heart-shaped dish today, just because we can sort of celebrate the love for avocados and, of course, the love for specifically the creaminess for Viavi avocados. Now, over to our avo, like I said, for those of you that maybe only joined now, the little sticker on the woolly shelf looks like that, and that is going to give you the indication that you are, in fact, buying a Viavi avocado, of course. So just moving over and getting a sort of a small little mixing bowl. It always just works phenomenally well. And then grab a knife because we need to cut this open. And this one is perfectly ripe, of course. Okay, just like that. Twist it a little bit. And they never seem to disappoint. When it comes to Viavi, one of the differentiating factors, my light is not playing with me today. There you go. That's actually perfect. Can even show it closer to the camera. You can see it's got quite a small seed. Now that is one of the differentiating factors when it comes to the Viavi avocados, of course. It's got a smaller seed, which means more flesh, more food for you at the end of the day, and all the more creaminess that you're going to be adding to this phenomenal recipe. Now you can make use of a tablespoon and just sort of scoop that out. And because this one is so perfectly ripe, it just scoops out like soft butter. Now, while we are scooping out, another thing that I can tell you about Viavi avocados, of course, it's got less stringy fibers. So that makes it more ideal to specifically use it as an alternative to cream in recipes. I always say it's almost like it's a vegan cream in a way, or vegetarian cream, depending, of course, with what milk you would be mixing it with. And there, as you can see, it's such a small little seed. We're just going to put that one to the side, of course. And then scoop that right out. Oh, wow. This one could have worked just as well on just a piece of toast because it's so phenomenally creamy. And let's be honest, that is one of the ultimate favorite ways of eating, well, any avocado, but have you tried the Viavi avocado on toast? That is sort of the question that I have for you this evening, because don't go and ruin it now with lemon juice, because again, Viavi is known to actually have a 10 extra day longer shelf life to the benefit of the home consumer, of course. So before you go and ruin it with your lemon juice, which is, by the way, an alkalizing fruit, and it is phenomenal for the body, high in vitamin C, but it might just ruin the creamy taste of this avocado, which we don't necessarily want. Okay. And I always just start mashing it with the spoon, and then I sort of move over to just my, the fork works just as well. There we go. Now, I always say abs are made in the kitchen, but definitely biceps too, because this can be a little bit of an arm exercise. Okay. one that is left to do is this is going to be added to this mix of ours. Okay, just like that. So phenomenally creamy. This is an absolutely perfect Viavi. And this one is now ready to go into our mix. Okay, for those of you that can see that, just like that, we're adding it to our mix. And last but not least is then the 3 eggs that we need to make use of for this recipe. So what we're going to do is, remember you are going to literally add the eggs from here into that one. So again, to save yourself a little bit of dishes, I'm sort of going to whisk the egg whites in here, because what I do is I actually add the yolks to the mix, and then I'll whisk the egg whites a little bit separate just for that bit of fluffiness. So like you can see, currently we are now mixing the avocado into our chocolate mix. And of course, if you didn't mash it properly, you will see little pieces of greenery, and that of course means you didn't do your job properly, people. So make sure that you mash that well enough so it can blend perfectly with our mixture. There we go. And now over to our eggs, like I said. Okay, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is, like I said, remember, now we're making use of 3 eggs. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. So we're going to add our whites to this side. Just like that. And then the yolk over to that side. And then number 2, there we go. All the whites on this side. And then, of course, the yolk on that side. And then egg number 3 to make sure we are getting the benefits. There we go. Of all of the fluffiness as well as the creaminess. So over to our whisk. Just going to give that a quick sort of just a little bit of a whisk there. For those of you, just a quick reminder, remember you have to preset your oven on 180 degrees. Here we go. Nice and fluffy, as you can see. And we're going to add that to the mix. And now this is almost ready for the oven. Okay, now we're going to have to mix all of this together. And again, it can be a little bit of an arm exercise, but we all would like to have nice toned arms, so more and more reason to be baking dessert then, of course. Okay, make sure the egg is properly mixed in. Sort of just going to give it a last little bit of a mix with this. And this is then absolutely perfect for the oven. As you can see there, now all that's need to do is we're going to scoop it into our little heart-shaped, beautiful container, because why? We love Viavi avocados, of course. Scoop that into here, just like that. And you will actually be surprised how creamy this mixture is, purely because you added the avocado. There we go. Just like that, and make sure the sides are clean, except if you felt like snooping out of the bowl, of course. There we go. And this side. We can sort of just put that there. And now just evenly distribute it in your baking dish. Now, when it comes to baking dishes, I absolutely love making use of olive oil based non-stick spray. Reason being, olive oil is always my oil base of choice. It's an anti-inflammatory, and remember, the little things in life also matter. So even when you're making use of a spray and cook, it's quite important to make use of a good quality one. So for that reason, oh, that looks just so delicious. And I think I've done a pretty good job because I don't see any little pieces of avo sticking out anyway. There we go. Just going to clean the hands for a second. And then I want to show you, this is now ready to go into the oven. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually place this in the oven for roughly about 10 minutes. You're going to take it out. In the meantime, we are going to be mixing the sauce, which I'm going to show you exactly now how to make. So also don't go anywhere. If you are doing this cook along with me, you can start getting everything ready for your sauce. I'm just going to pop this one into the oven, set the time, and then I'm going to be back in a second. Okay. It's always quite important to also make use of the middle shelf. We're going to close that up and then set the time, like I said, for 10 minutes. Now again, when it comes to your working station, now you have quite a lot of things standing around, so you can also clean up your working station, because I always say, I clean as I go. So if you can start cleaning as you are busy mixing, by the time this beautiful dessert comes out of the oven, you can sit down and enjoy it with your favorite beverage, hot chocolate, or even a beautiful cup of coffee. Now over to my little pot. Love a good quality non-stick pot. Of course, it again helps with the cleaning afterwards. Temperature, I've got a, this is an induction stove. So ideally a temperature, anything between a 6 and a 7 is always ideal, because you do not want the sauce to burn. You just sort of want it to just, all the ingredients to get married and live happily ever after. That's always what I say when it comes to my ingredients. So I'm going to add that temperature to number 7. And then here in my pot, currently I've got 200 grams of our almond butter. Now, it might sound like a lot, but like I say, I don't necessarily always add all of this sauce to my dessert, because I like to keep that little bit of extra in the fridge, of course, just, you know, when you feel like a spoonful, because you deserve it. Then over to our honey, we've got 5 tablespoons of raw honey in there, as well as, again, it's for you to decide if you like your normal milk chocolate or your dark chocolate, of course. I've added a proper heaped tablespoon of raw cacao into this pot with a pinch of Oryx salt, and then, of course, 1 teaspoon of caramel essence. Now, we're surely going to start mixing that. But there's one ingredient missing. Now, for those of you that is following the recipe, you will see we need to add 1.5 cups of unsweetened almond milk. Now, when it comes to almond milk, you get good quality almond milks, and then you get average quality almond milks, and then you get those with all kinds of the funny ingredients that you don't necessarily want in an almond milk. So be on the lookout for a good quality one. Now, when it comes to almond milk, let me just turn my box. This is specifically the one I prefer. Reason being, it is unsweetened. There's no cornstarch, but there's also no sunflower oil in this one. And I promise you, so far to date, this is the only one that makes coffee taste just as good. So over to our 1.5 cups, the little measuring cup, and we're gonna go. There is our first cup, and pour that right in. And then over to our next half. There we go. You're going to start giving that a slow stir. Currently, it's quite still sticky because we've got our almond butter, we've got our raw honey. So it's currently a bit of a sticky situation, but you're going to see all of a sudden, all of the ingredients is going to start mixing well together. And that is so important, because that's the moment when you cannot leave the stove unattended, because all of a sudden it might burn, and we don't want a burnt nutty taste. We just want that beautiful roasted nutty flavor that is going to come through in this phenomenal sauce. Just going to keep stirring that. Okay, so we are doing well so far. And on the clock, we have about 6 minutes left. So for those of you that only joined now, we are making a sticky chocolate pudding. What we've done is we Viavified a little bit because why? For the love of Viavi avocados on Viavi Thursdays, of course. What we did was we mashed the avocado. It is quite important to mash it well because otherwise when you mix it into your mixture, you might end up with little lumps of avo. Now, if you're a fan of that, by all means go for it. But for me, it is quite important that this has got a beautiful, even consistency because why? We're already pouring over this sauce over that, and then you're going to bake it a little bit further so it can just ooze up all of the beautifulness and the richness of this sauce. So what I'll also do is afterwards I will be posting and resharing again the recipe. For those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, Izelle Hoffman, you can also please give Viavi Avocado a follow as well because all the recipes are on their social pages. If you're not following their Facebook page just yet, also have a look out for Viavi Avo. Like I said, always tag them in the majority of my posts. So you can either just scroll down on my page or go and search for them right now on Facebook, or on Instagram, of course, then afterwards. Also be on the lookout. We've done quite a few cook-alongs and giveaways and phenomenal recipes that we have created over the season. And all of those you can, in fact, find on their website, of course. So be on the lookout for that as well because there's quite a few cheeky recipes on that website that you might just want to give a try before the Viavi season is, in fact, over for this year. But not to worry because next year we are back again with another fantastic Viavi season, and then you might actually, in fact, be able to kick off the season with phenomenal recipes. Back to my sauce because, again, like I said, you know, you cannot leave it unattended. And here I'm talking to you and actually almost, in fact, forgetting about my own sauce. Okay, so the almond butter started to melt, the honey started to melt, and I know that because it's a lot easier to stir it all of a sudden. And now it's starting to thickening, sort of like into a moussiness, and that is sort of the effect that we want because when you pour it over this dessert, it is going to bake like a mushy crispiness. I don't know if so often people say to me, but a mushy crispiness does not make sense, but it sort of crisps up around the edges of your dessert, and it just keeps that soft moistness with this. Yeah, you're gonna have to try it for yourself. I'm actually, in fact, getting so excited for this dessert because this is, in fact, going to be my dinner, of course. So if you can have good quality ingredients, so often it's not about the amount of ingredients that you make use of, but the quality of the ingredients. Every now and then a dessert for dinner could not be the worst thing in the world, people, because again, if you're only making use of ingredients that your body sees as healing, this is not really something you should feel guilty about. And that for that reason, I call it guilt-free, of course. So I'm giving it one last little stir, and then I'm going to check up on my dessert in the oven because I am not going to stand here and sort of wait for the whole dessert to finish. And for that reason, I will be posting photos afterwards because we have 3 minutes left on the clock. And then for those of you that is wondering, this recipe is available in my cookbook, Mindful Eating, like you can see there. But in the book, it's without the Viavi avocado, of course, and we are looking for it with our phenomenal Viavi avocado. This kitchen is starting to smell like a choc chip cookie, for lack of a better word. It's that beautiful sort of, I think it must be the caramel essence that is really coming to life now with our beautiful flavor from our raw cacao, of course. Chickpeas, don't throw those little cheeky buggers away. They are gluten-free, a fantastic protein base when it comes to the plant side of life. So for vegetarians and vegans, that's always a protein option, of course. So again, I'm sort of trying to justify, always a tongue twister there. I'm actually trying to justify why you can have dessert for dinner because it's got a protein, the chickpeas. We've added some egg, that of course is also a protein. Then we've got our healthy fats, which is of course our fantastic Viavi avocado. We've got our almond butter in there. We have a little bit of almond flour just to sort of set the consistency. Our raw honey, which is antiviral, antifungal, of course. We've got our bicarb of soda. It was 1 teaspoon that we've added. That is, of course, an alkalizer. So there's currently no bad ingredients in this dessert. So yes, people, I have just explained to you why this is the perfect dinner. Now we've got about 1.5 minutes left. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remove the dessert from the oven, pour the sauce over. and then pop it back into the oven and let it bake for another 10 to 15 minutes. So the total time on the clock, in fact, for this dessert would be then 25 minutes. Now my sauce is slowly but surely started to thickening up, which is perfect. It's also starting to bubble a little bit. That is always, you know, if I wasn't cooking live, I might as well just given it a taste, but let's behave because we are going to be saving the best for last, of course. Okay, that looks and smells absolutely phenomenal. Now I'm going to get my gloves ready. Absolutely red is by default. I think my favorite color. It's also the color of love. And we are cooking for the love of Viavi avocados, of course. And we're almost there, people. We have 40 seconds left. So for those of you, like I said, if this is the first time you're watching a cook along, it's such a pity because we've been doing phenomenal giveaways over the last couple of weeks on the Viavi pages as well as various media pages. For those of you that have missed any of the recipes from the previous cook alongs, that is in fact then available on the Viavi website. And yes, I've got 10 seconds left, and then I'm going to remove this this dessert of sticky chocolate pudding from the oven. I'm going to add the sauce and then pop it right back. And I think that is just my cue that I can go and take that out of the oven. Oh, look at that. This is absolutely gorgeous, so pretty. Closing up there, we do not want to lose any of the heat. And then clean up our station a little bit. Move the sauce. Oh, yes, that is the perfect consistency. Put this down. And this is sort of the part you have to be a little bit careful because I tend to burn hands and fingers and anything like that. So you can give it a slow pour over. And then make use of a tablespoon just sort of to evenly distribute it a little bit. Just like that. And then go over and add some more. And make sure it goes to all the little corners and get every aspect of this beautiful dessert. There we go. And then also a little bit on this side. Oh, it looks absolutely delicious. I'm such a fan of chocolate. It is my ultimate favorite, of course. And with the extra creaminess of Viavi, this has just become my ultimate favorite. Okay, so if you sort of spilled over the sides a little bit like I did, just make sure that you are going to be cleaning it up before you pop it back into the oven, because otherwise you might be struggling with the dishes afterwards. And that is sort of what we were trying to avoid from the beginning. Okay, and this is going back into the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes. You can, of course, even dust it with a little bit of extra raw cacao. You can even sprinkle it with almond flakes or flour for that matter. But I'm just going to keep it like this because I sort of like the dark, intense chocolatiness. And once it comes out of the oven, I always dust it with raw cacao and sort of garnish it with mint, maybe even a little bit of Viavi if you wanted to just sort of finish it off beautifully. Okay, and this is, like I said, going back into the oven. Don't let the sauce drip on the floor. And there we go. Remember to set your timer. I always advise people, go for 10 minutes first, and then have a look, and then maybe add it for another 5 before you just put 15 minutes on the clock. So I'm going to start mine for 10 minutes. Got that on the clock. And there we go. So people, from my side, my name is Izelle Hoffman. I'm a lifestyle chef. It's been an absolute honor to share the whole Viavi journey with you guys every single Thursday here on my Facebook page. But just because Viavi season is over does not mean you have to forget about the brand. Be on the lookout for those recipes. Keep buying them and be on the lookout for them on the shelf for the last couple of weeks that they are available. And all the best of luck for those of you that is trying this recipe at home. Please give me some feedback. You can direct message me. You can comment on this post. You can even send me a message on Instagram or on my inbox here on Facebook. And please give Viavi Avocados, of course, a follow so you can be the first to know when the season is starting next year. From my side, lots of love. Always cook with love and intent. Make that little bit of extra love for yourself. Remember, just because maybe you're all alone like myself this evening, it does not mean that you don't have to make a little bit of effort, because that dessert is all mine. Lots of love and keep healthy. Keep eating those vegetables and, of course, your avos. And I will see you soon. Cheers.